Okay, great. Can you hear me well? Thank you all. I'm TingTing Nian. Sorry for being late because I messed up the time. I thought there would be time allocated for to enjoy the Alpine comfort food and also the drink, and it turned out that we went straight to the presentation. So this morning, we have seen everything from serial acquisitions to the question of whether you should buy or make. And then today, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper into the mechanics of platform mergers, and this is a case study on the a acquisition between Grubhub and E24. And we're going to take a very macro approach, and we're going to look at how does this merger affect both sides of the platforms, who benefits and who didn't. Oh, sorry, I will, yeah, thank you. So I will. I know that we have a lot of legal scholars and also economists and also the practitioners. So I'm really willing, to, eager to hear your thoughts. I know that this is a post-merger analysis. It's very different from how the antitrust regulators look at the deals when before the merger. So this is a joint work with two graduates from our school from UCI. Now they're assistant professor at UT Dallas, and also University of Wisconsin Madison, and then also with Kevin Hong from University of Miami. So I think I don't have to bore you with all the motives of why firms engage in M&A to acquire, for example, specialized talent, technology, or products, or to get the new distribution channels, or to gain market power to achieve, for example, a return to scale. And also, for the platforms, digital platforms, we could also see, the increased strengthened network effects, and also the market efficiency got improved. So, for example, there's this Facebook Instagram acquisition has been brought up multiple times this morning, and it's a textbook acquisition. Instagram nowadays still one of the most valuable assets of Meta because it drives the engagement and also the advertising revenue. And then a more recent example is in the lodging industry. Airbnb acquired a hotel tonight. Although this is a platform that focuses on the last minute hotel booking. Although it's not the main business area of Airbnb, but Airbnb try to expand its reach to different markets. So in our context, in the food delivery industry, as you can see that this could easily qualify the serial acquisition of Marriott's definition this morning, because after Grubhub went on public in 2014, the next 5 years it engaged like multiple acquisitions, including LA Bites and then Delivery Dish and then E24 and Escape Dishes. I think those M&A is still happening in the food delivery markets. And then I'm curious to learn, how this new, regulations on the, serial acquisition is going to affect those deals. So we're going to focus on the one particular acquisition, which is Grubhub acquired E24. And of course, this brings up the antitrust concerns because those this would give certain companies market power, and then which would ultimately lead to reduced innovation, which we have seen in the previous presentation, and also increase in the price, decrease in the quality, and in the digital platforms, the market power or the gatekeepers that they acquired the market power, and then they could actually, enforce the fees or enforce the rules, raise the fees or enforce the rules over the access and usage of the platform. And this would further distort the competition and hurt consumer welfare. As a result, the tech giants have been consistently facing, scrutiny by FTC and the EU regulators, and also state attorney generals. For instance, so EU set out to charge Apple for blocking the its rival apps on its app store, and also Amazon has been becoming the target of EU to and have been accused of self-preferencing and promoting its own brand products over the third-party sellers. So to give you a little bit background, this acquisition took place in 2017, and then at that time the threshold for reporting this merger acquisition was 80 million, and then the deal went through for about 287 million dollars. And at that time, Grubhub accounts for 44% of the U.S. market. It has about 55,000 restaurants on the platform. On the other hand, E24 has presence in mostly in big cities in the coastal area and also the southern states. And the market share is much smaller, but it's still significant, 80% of the US market. And the acquisition was announced in 2017 August, and then most restaurants started, migrating in 2018 January, and then later, 10 months later, the E24 was shut down. I mean, what? Yes.
When you say 44% and 8%, you mean 44% of the restaurants in that geography that use these kinds of services use Grubhub exclusively? 44% of the revenue, 44% of what?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I have to verify the source because I found the source was very ambiguous. I have the same question, whether it's the number of restaurants or it's about the total revenue. Yeah, thank you. So the so obviously, the platform, the digital platform mergers is different from traditional M&A because on one hand it involves multiple sides. So in this case, we have the restaurants and also the customers. And in order to understand the effects of such merger, we need to investigate both, the impacts of this merger on on the welfare of both sides. So the increase of so the merger brought all the restaurants up on board on the Grubhub platform, and that increased the market thickness. So what happens to the Grubhub diners? So they have more options to choose from. So that would increase the likelihood to get to find a restaurant that they like. So that's a gain. But however, some too many choices could increase the search cost and also increase the search friction and possibly leading to a congestion. On the restaurant side, many restaurants, and also customers on board this Grubhub platform. So the new diners bring in more opportunities for revenue growth. So there's an increase in demand. However, on the flip side, the more restaurants also means that there could be intensified competition. So the question is that, how does this platform merger affect restaurants and the consumers? And does it lead to better matching efficiency and or strengthen network effects, or does it actually create such friction and congestion? And how does this effect vary across different, for example, restaurant type, different market, local market characteristics? Remember this. Here the local market network effects matters rather than the global network effects, because I don't care about how many restaurants there are in New York, but I care about how many restaurants in my local city. And also, how does this affect consumers' behavior differently? So there's a long list of literature on M&A in the traditional markets. So I intentionally omit that because I know that you're all experts on that. And I only focus on the platform M&A. So in a couple of recent papers, especially I want to point out two closely related papers, Jun Li, they studied the merger between Airbnb and a short rental platform. And the other paper is by Kara in 2024. They studied two pet sitting platforms that merged together, and then they argue that consumers actually are worse off because this differentiation between between platforms actually matter more. And there's another increasing amount of interest on the demand for delivery market in general. So, for example, a couple of studies that show that how does this demand for delivery companies affect the offline company, restaurants dining, and also how does what is the impact of regulations? For example, there's a regulation on the fee cap that the platform can charge the restaurants, and how does that affect, for example, the restaurants, the competition landscape on the platform. So our data is from a aggregated financial data aggregator. So it randomly draw 0.3% individuals in the US, and we have all their transaction data. And from this, we can identify, for example, their spending on the restaurants, and that's through which delivery platforms, or whether this consumption at the restaurant is actually offline. So they pay directly to the restaurant. And all transactions from the two platforms, which are the Grubhub and the 24 during 2017 to the end of 2019. So we have a monthly panel of all, over 200 restaurants, 200,000 restaurants, and we have the monthly panel for 1.2 million diners. So we collect the transactions into, for example, the number of orders and also the transaction amount. In order to measure the impacts on the revenue of the restaurants and also spending of the diners. And then we also collected the restaurant information from Yelp, so we can match the restaurant on Yelp and also the restaurant that show up in our data set. And then we can get their reviews and the ratings and then their price levels. And we want to, because the restaurants, the content of the review, we intentionally did not analyze that on, using the Yelp review because it has information from people that from all channels. So we only analyze the diners review on Grubhub. So on Grubhub platform, you can also leave a review. So we analyze whether consumers are voicing out any complaints on the Grubhub platform after the merger. Yes.
Do you actually observe the transaction fee of those?
The transaction fee is not separate. We cannot observe it. We can only find it from public sources. Yeah, thank you. So, this is two graphs. On the left, it shows the number of restaurants on the two platforms. The red line shows the Grubhub, and then the blue line shows Eat24. So you can see that after the second vertical line, which is the after the merger begins, the number of restaurants on Eat24 declines sharply, and then the number of restaurants on Eat24 grows. And then similarly for the number of diners on the right-hand side, in this figure, you can show that it's a similar story. So after the merger, both restaurants and the diners started migrating, and then we leverage a merger as a quasi experimental setting because we have more than more than close to 2,000 cities, and then we can measure, for example, how does the pre-merger. So the two platforms actually occupy different shares across different geographical areas, and in some cities, there's no Eat24 presence before the merger, so those cities can be used as control cities. But there are some cities that has a big presence of Eat24 before the merger, and then we can use those cities as actually a control cities. Treatment cities. So treatment is defined as one if there's a Eat24 presence before the merger, and then if it's zero if there's no Eat24 presence. However, there's endogenous concerns, which is the treatment cities could look differently from the control cities. Maybe the treated cities are on average are larger, and then they may grow faster just organically than the cities in the control group. So we use a propensity score matching to match on the pre-merger socioeconomic conditions in those cities. So in terms of population density, median age, median income, unemployment rate, and the racial composition. So finally, we obtained 1,500 treated cities, and with 856 control cities. So the first look of the result, this is a definitive regression, and as you can see that after the merger, so this is the dependent variable is the Grubhub restaurants earnings and the number of orders, and the Grubhub existing diners spending, and also the number of orders. So we see that the existing restaurants saw on average saw revenue growth, and also the existing Grubhub diners also increased their spending. So this could suggest that there's a positive, there's a strengthened network effect. So more restaurants, more diners, and then it leads to a victor's cycle. And then if we look at but we know that that all the markets are very different. So this average effect could mask very important heterogeneities across different markets. So we divide the cities into 4 quartiles based on the treatment intensity. So the first quartile, which is the on the right hand, to the right hand side, this is the cities where there used to be a lot of E24 restaurants. So this is a heavily treated cities, and then versus on the left, this is the treatment the first quartile, which is the lightly treated cities. So we can see that the results are interesting. That the restaurants actually benefit more in the third and the fourth quartile rather than in the first and the second quartile. And then if we look at the same, the same results on the diners spending, it's actually an opposite story. So for the diners, actually they spend, on average the spending all increase, but the increase is more in the first and second quartile rather than in the third and the fourth quartile. And then we thought about why is the reason. One of the explanation it could be, there are there's so many choices that actually lead to search frictions, and then consumers are information overloaded, or they couldn't, it actually the search cost, the increased search cost lead them to sometimes abandon. Yes. Oh, the 5 minutes. Okay. So and then later on we will verify whether this is the case. So I'm gonna skip and then talk about the reviews. And then so we look at the Yelp reviews and then look at what are the restaurants that are benefiting more. So we find that the review, so the restaurants which are rated highly are more likely to benefit. But on the other hand, actually the restaurants who are rated below 3.8 are actually going to be worse off. So we're facing higher competition, those restaurants are actually going to suffer a profit decline. And then we also look at the competitors. So if the restaurants are sitting in a area where there's a high competition, so we define the competition as in the number of restaurants in the same precinct nearby, and also the number of restaurants in the same price level nearby. And then we find that the restaurants with facing more competition are worse off during the after the merger. Maybe this is because of the intensified competition further lead to the decline in the revenue of the restaurants. And then to prove that, to provide some evidence on the positive network effects, we use this production function. So which is we regress the log number of orders on the platform, and then in a particular city in a particular month, using the number of restaurants and number of diners as the inputs. So the idea is that if there's a return to scale, then beta 1 and beta 2 add up together should be larger than 1, because doubling the number of restaurants, doubling the number of diners should lead to more than double the number of transactions. And then we show that that's the case. And then we also look at whether that return to scale changes after the merger, which is beta 3 and then plus beta 4. If the network effects got strengthened, we should see beta 3 plus beta 4 is significantly positive. And then we do find that this is the case. So after the merger, the network effects got strengthened. And then we look at the service quality using the Grubhub reviews. So Grubhub reviews are like this. So the missing one item, good, but the food was cold and then it's 1 hour delay. So we look at the complaints of the negative reviews on the Grubhub platform regarding price, regarding delivery, regarding quality, service, and overall. And then we find that there's no significant change in the complaints about on the price or quality or service, but there's a increase in the complaints about delivery. So which might suggest that there's a congestion on the platforms. And then in particular, if we divide these markets into high and low in terms of the treatment intensity, we find that this increase in delivery complaints only happen in those areas where there is a more influx of new restaurants. And then we also look at whether there's a consumer leakage to other platforms and also to the offline channels. And then we find that after the merger, the consumers are actually consumers increase their spending on offline, but there's no significant change in their spending on the other platforms such as DoorDash or Postmates. So to conclude, so our study we're taking a very micro approach to first show that there's a positive network effects after the merger, and we see that the restaurants saw increase the revenue, diners increase their spending, and overall the market. We also look at the overall market also gained in terms of so the total revenue from both platforms actually increased after the merger. Um, but we also find that when the market thickness increased too much, that would lead to congestion and search friction. So, too many choices could lead to consumers fatigue, and E24 users switch to offline channel, and the consumer reviews suggest that there's a possible delay in the delivery services. And heterogeneous effects, restaurants are different. Different restaurants benefit differently. With the smaller and the poorly rated restaurants and independent restaurants, facing a hard time after the merger. So for the policymakers, I'm trying to. I think this is out of battery, so I would just shout. So this is a that one is on. Okay. So I'm trying to. I added this slide actually after listening to the morning's panel. I think this is an interesting. I think hopefully our studies could provide some food for thoughts for the antitrust regulators to reassess the antitrust standards, which is used to focus on more predominantly on pricing effects, but actually maybe taking into consideration of the market power in terms of data and in terms of, for example, algorithms, in terms of the market access, and also the regulators also should consider how to track the post-merger consumer experiences, and also to assess the multi-sided market dynamics, given that this is usually the platforms involve multiple sides. And for the digital platforms, they should consider to balance the market thickness and also user experience. Too many choices could lead to congestion, and also consider how to ensure fair value distribution across restaurants tiers. For example, maybe help the independent restaurants to gain more visibility after the merger, using through technology such as recommendation systems. So that's it. Thank you. Yes.
Two questions. The first one is, did they change E24's app to according to did remove that from the App Store after the acquisition?
I think it's shutting down. It was shut down. Yeah.
So I think it's different than what Uber and Postmates have done.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think that over there, I think that's just their first point of the balancing market thing. So the restaurants is still pretty separate on Uber and Postmates, but it's good for the customer because they can use the discount codes from Uber Eats onto Postmates or vice versa. So that's an interesting angle that you have here. And the second question is, we go back to the thing on the offline spending. Are you noticing that it's much more concentrated against in your higher treatment intensive cities where cities that already had a lot of E24 restaurants now Grove has taken over, showing all of those, like those cities have a higher concentration of offline spending because of this increased congestion or subscription.
Yeah, we do see that there's a difference in terms of the switching to the offline. So in the high and low treatment intensity cities, although the difference there's a difference.
Are you able to also I guess try to see if it's not just switching to other platforms or other restaurants, but probably changing their spending behaviors and how they going more grocery store to show they did I don't want to eat out of this just do something is that something that's below or something you're able to see in the data?
Yeah, we will be able to see, because this is considering think about give your credit card information to some data aggregator. So we have the information on, for example, grocery shopping. I think that's definitely interesting angle. So we can look at it. Yes.
I think one of the conflating challenges that may be going on with some of the delivery complaints is that at the same time, these platforms were making new decisions about how to pool orders and compensate the drivers and the delivery participants. And so I think, and that has a lot to do with congestion. If you can fit the rules and policies about how close the restaurants are and how close then the target to the customers are. And so I caution you as you're looking to sort of continue to turn the data and ask yourself more questions to just think about what their policies with the drivers were and what kinds of shifts they were making in terms of food.
Yeah. Thank you. Very good suggestion. Yes.
I just have a quick point about some of the research I've done, but also I think that you confirm in your research, and that is in the digital spaces, I'm starting to wonder or realize or both that, a lot of digital companies might have sort of a maximum size that they can achieve. And, the peak of acquisitions for the big five occurred around 2014, 2015. They're absolutely in a down cycle. Same thing for, that first big swell of cloud and AI acquisitions, which peaked around 2018, 2019. But, given the market thickness issues and congestion, as we learned through this research about how the digitals operate, it may be that we're just sort of confronting what will be maximum
Efficiency.
maximum efficient scale or whatever, however you want to characterize it. But I think that has a lot of implications for antitrust enforcement too. Right.
Yes.
And it kind of makes me wonder, given all of this congestion and customer complaints, why would the platforms continue to get larger and larger? I mean, they're obviously reaping lots of economies, on the firm side of the market, but the customer impacts are not positive.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's like learning by doing or if it's, they're sort of testing to see what the maximum, what is a fully mature digital platform kind of thing. But I do think it has implications for policy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we should. Okay, thank you so much.